There is no longer any doubt that Joe Biden is unfit to be our commander-in-chief.
Yeah, that's true.
The smallest crowd ever assembled for a Republican press conference. I don't know where everybody is this morning. They're chasing down the Democrats for a change.
President Trump on that historic night when he delivered this knockout blow on the debate performance that he had where he, 15 rounds and defeated Joe Biden in all 15 rounds. He may have knocked out the candidate. He's also knocked the entire party into a complete collapse and free fall.
Breaking news. House Republicans declaring Joe Biden mentally unfit for office. And this is something we've known for, about a decade. But it's nice that they're making it official. And they're saying that there was a cover-up of his mental state. And we know this has been underway for a long time. They kept him in the basement during 2020, and they're trying to do that again now. They're going to be standing by their man. But House Republicans are saying, all right, we can't just sit idly by. Obviously, the guy is gone. What can we do about it? Here's Elise, Stefanik, and a bunch of others holding their press briefing today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
There is no longer any doubt that Joe Biden is unfit to be our commander-in-chief.
Yeah, that's true.
The Biden White House, far-left House Democrats, and the mainstream media are in complete disarray because they know this to be true and have been caught participating in one of the greatest media cover-ups in American history.
All of them.
For the last 3.5 years, House Republicans and the American people have been demanding details about Joe Biden's mental and physical decline. But every time we raise these legitimate concerns, far-left Democrats and their loyal stenographers in the mainstream media rushed to Biden's defense, claiming that the clearly diminished Joe Biden was as sharp as ever and accusing us of peddling conspiracy theories. The cover-up is over and accountability is here. For years, House Republicans have known that Joe Biden is unfit for office. We also know that he will go to any lengths to maintain his grip on power. This is why it is so crucial that we take every possible measure to ensure that the 2024 presidential election is free from election interference and is constitutional. As part of that ongoing effort, House Republicans are bringing to the floor this week Congressman Chip Roy's Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which requires individuals to provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote in federal elections. Not surprisingly, the Biden White House, whose far-left open border agenda has let in millions, over 10 million illegal immigrants, is against our bill. This is a very simple and logical concept rooted in the Constitution. Only American citizens should vote in American elections. Also this week, House Republicans are moving Mary Miller's CRA to stop Joe Biden's radical efforts to roll back women's rights and change Title IX to allow biological men to access women and girls' bathrooms, locker rooms, and sports. Next week, we are looking forward to uniting in Milwaukee behind President Donald J. Trump's America First agenda, which created the greatest economy in generations, the securest border in modern history, the lowest gas prices in years, and peace through strength around the world. With that, we're honored to be joined by Chip Roy, who is leading the SAVE Act this week on the floor.
All right, we'll come back. We'll talk about that in another segment later on in the show. Let's see what Mike Johnson said about all of this. This is the Speaker of the House who came back out talking about Biden and the state of the race.
The smallest crowd ever assembled for a Republican press conference. I don't know where everybody is this morning. They're chasing down the Democrats for a change. This is a really interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, because they're so infatuated with what's going to happen. They can't believe that they got duped or something. So they're trying to figure out which way all the Democrats are going to land on the Joe Biden competency question and whether they're going to be standing by him or not.
And the reason it's so noteworthy and the reason that most of the Hill press are following the Democrats around now, we had almost no one outside our conference meeting this morning. Normally, you're all there gathered in the hallways. They're busy because they're chasing down our Democrat colleagues and asking them about Joe Biden's mental acuity and their efforts to cover it up. That's what it's been. I mean, we could give you example after example after example. It's all on tape. It's all on record. Everybody knows it. Democrats, our colleagues, for 3.5 years have been covering up this glaring problem. The staff in the White House have been covering it up, and so have the Democrats in Congress. Just last month, I brought a couple of examples. Representative Dan Goldman said Biden was sharper than anyone he'd spoken to and that he has, quote, a photographic memory, unquote.
Look at Scalise.
Representative Eric Swalwell said that Biden put many of us to shame with his energy. I mean, there are example after example after example, leading Democrats and noteworthy Democrats on the Hill who have not been in the dark about this.
Ranting about Robert Hur.
Things I think most of them understand is simply not true, and they've misled the American people. And this is dangerous. We have the NATO summit going on, the 75th anniversary of NATO here, all of our guests from around the world. What we're projecting from the White House is not strength right now, at a very dangerous time around the world, and that's why the American people are so alarmed by this. That's why the polls say that most of the Americans, people understand that Joe Biden is not fit for that office. is, and it's a terrible thing. The Democrats have
So I'm
misled
curious
us.
what they're going to be asking
They need to be
for.
held accountable for that. They've also been misleading everybody about the SAVE Act, which will be on the floor that you've heard about this morning. It's a very important piece of legislation. They're claiming to oppose the bill because they say it's going to make it harder to vote, but they know that that is not true. Many of the Democrats want all of these illegals to participate in our federal elections. They want them to vote. There's no other conclusion that you can draw. When the White House announced they would veto the bill, they effectively handed our elections over to all of these illegal aliens that have come here. And the number is far greater than what is being reported. We were in conference this morning. One of our colleagues from the state of Kentucky was down at the Texas border over the last week, and he was there with top border officials. It was down south of Laredo. And he said that he and colleagues that were there personally witnessed 9 illegals cross the border and disappear into the woods. And 2 Border Patrol agents tried to follow them on foot, and they lost them. And they came back, and our colleagues then asked, well, how will you account for those numbers, to send to DHS so they can add them to the number? And they said, we can't count them. What do you mean? Well, the secretary in DHS does not allow us to count anyone unless we can say conclusively that they didn't cross back over the border and go back. And we lost them in the woods, so we don't know. So they don't even count in the got-away numbers. This is how it's being done. Whatever number you think, whatever number is being reported is grossly underreported. I've been saying for some time, I think it's probably close to 16 million. That may be an underestimate, and it's a serious problem. And we cannot allow a federal election to be jeopardized by people who can run into the local welfare office, sign up for taxpayer benefits, and check a box that says, I'm a citizen and I want to vote. This is common sense legislation. Chip Roy has done an extraordinary job. Others have, preparing this, getting it ready. We have to make sure that we don't have an election that is flawed in this way. In states that are trying to catch these criminals, they're identifying thousands of illegal aliens who are indeed registering and trying to vote. Some states have already done their own audits. This will make sure that we can prevent this from happening, and so we've got to do this. You should ask every Democrat, if they're voting against this legislation, how in the world they can justify it.
That's Mike Johnson and the Republicans saying that Joe Biden is mentally unfit. Donald Trump called into Sean Hannity yesterday and had a conversation with him. One of the first questions was about Joe Biden's fitness and what Trump was thinking as the debate was unfolding right there in front of him. We all watched it in real time. We were live there, of course, in Las Vegas from Trump Hotel. And we were witnessing what we thought was Joe Biden being Joe Biden. It was really much of the same that we've seen the rest of the time he's been in office. It wasn't a big surprise to us. But I think Trump knew that too. Trump, that's why he said, I'll do whatever you want. He kept agreeing to whatever terms they threw at him, knowing that Joe Biden couldn't speak and that he was going to win no matter what. Could have been 5 Joe Bidens. It wouldn't have mattered. And Trump called in to explain the position with Sean.
Well, it was a big evening, and you could feel a lot of energy. Boy, energy like you haven't felt in a long time. On any of the debates, I've done a lot of debates, and we've had great success with debates, but this was something very special. For whatever reason, it just seemed big. And when I got to Atlanta, and this was at CNN headquarters, there was a lot of excitement. There were trucks. I call them the $10 million trucks. That's with the antennas all over, and very incredible equipment. I'm looking at things that are, it's just more of a scene than it normally would be. And it really was that way right from the start, right from the moment they introduced us, and then they introduced him and introduced me, and I walked out and I saw him, and he looked extremely pale, to put it nicely. And I don't know, maybe it was a good makeup job or maybe it wasn't, but he was a very pale-looking man. And when he started to speak, I don't know, I thought his voice was weak. I didn't know exactly what was happening. It was strange. I do have to say that the CNN, Jake and Dana, they were pretty good. I thought they were fair. And the questions, I thought to him, to me. But it was a strange evening. I will tell you, it was a strange debate because within a couple of minutes, the answers given by him they didn't make a lot of sense.
I didn't think that the questions were fair, like 50-50. I thought that they were slightly unfair, but not brutally unfair. And I think what we saw that was good from the moderators, not to rehash all of the debate analysis, was that they were not acting like Chris Wallace. They weren't screaming at each of them, in particular at Trump, fact-checking them. No, that's not true. No, you can't say that. Okay, we're not debating you. If Joe Biden wants to say that, he'll have his time to say that. He can come out and explain himself and explain why Trump's a liar and a racist and a misogynist or whatever, right? That's what the debate is for. Both sides can handle that. You don't need the debate moderator to do that as well. So Trump comes out, says, yeah, he thought it was actually pretty fair. And let's see what else he says.
Country, inflation, the people that he's hurting. He's destroying Social Security. And people are, I'm just so upset with him as president. And so I wasn't really looking over. I purposely wasn't. And I did take a couple of peeks when he was in the midst of giving some really bad answers. They weren't even answers. They were just words put together that had no meaning or sense. But for the most part, I didn't really look over.
Since before the 2020 election, on radio and TV, I have chronicled...
Well, they cover for him, and they still are sort of covering, but now it's getting very difficult to do that. And, it looks to me like he may very well stay in. He's got an ego, and he doesn't want to quit. He doesn't want to do that. It just looks to me like that's what he wants. I think Jill would like to see him stay. She's having a good time.
She sure is.
I notice she really seems to be having a good time, and I'm hearing that Hunter is calling the shots. So this isn't necessarily a very positive thing for our country. But I think he, might very well stay in, and if he does, nobody wants to give that up that way. He's going to feel badly about himself for a long time. It's hard to give it up that way, the way where they're trying to force him out. So, you really have to speak to his doctors, but obviously he's been sheltered by the fake news media. That's why they call it the fake news. So that was a big thing. I was told it would take 5 years, and it took us a couple of months. The military is fantastic. By the way, the military is not woke. The people at top are woke, but the military is never going to be woke. Those are incredible people, what they did for me in the fight on ISIS. And then we had no wars. I had no wars. We're heading into World War III, in my opinion, with this man semi-running things. Because he's not running things. The people that surround the Oval Office, the people that surround Resolute Desk, the beautiful Resolute Desk, they're really running things in Washington, I suspect, and it's very bad. And, he got them into the warfare and lawfare, many different terms you can use, but basically going after your political opponent, using the Justice Department, using local DAs, using local attorney generals, going after your political opponent. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. And, there are those. I just read an article that it's been a positive for me, but it's not a positive. It's very unfair. It's fighting an unfair battle. But he's the one that got us into that. And all these lawsuits you see and everything else, that's all Biden-inspired, meaning Biden people inspired. And I think it's a very sad time for our country. We're not respected anywhere in the world. He's not respected. And our country is in very serious trouble. And I'll tell you what, if we're not careful, we're going to be right in the middle of World War III. And that will be a war like nobody's seen before because of the weaponry. The weaponry is a whole lot different than two army tanks going up against each other. This is a whole different world. And we don't have somebody that can properly represent us. There's no question about that.
All right. So Trump is right as usual. Joe Biden is not capable of even completing a 90-minute debate session after a full week of recovery time. So we expect him to guide us through all of the global difficulties. Another 4 years of him, we'll have 2 or 3 more fronts open. I'm sure China will have a lot of fun with Taiwan and so on. So here was Doug Burgum. He is on the short list for the VP slot over on with Fox, explaining how Trump just waltzed right in there against all odds, like Batman in Act 3, like Luke Skywalker versus the entire Death Star, and just obliterated not only Joe Biden, but took out the entire Democratic Party.
President Trump, on that historic night when he delivered this knockout blow on the debate performance that he had, where he, 15 rounds and defeated Joe Biden in all 15 rounds, he may have knocked out the candidate. He's also knocked the entire party into a complete collapse and free fall, as you described, whether it's the donors, the intelligentsia, the media, all of these folks are in complete flux. And we owe President Trump a degree of gratitude because they had the courage. Remember, it was just weeks ago when all the pundits were saying what a mistake had been made because, wow, President Trump had agreed anytime, any place, anywhere. And he went into a debate that was lopsided against him and came out. Now the whole world is turned upside down. And I think it doesn't really matter who the candidate.
He's right. Trump did that. They thought that they could stack the deck against him and that he would ideally decline the debate so that Joe Biden could then turn around and declare victory. I agreed to debate twice, and Donald Trump threw a hissy fit, and he did not want to partake in it. Donald Trump said, fine, whatever you want. You want 2 Joe Bidens? Put Kamala up there too. You want Jake? Fine. Who else you want? Dana? Fine. And then went in there and wrecked not only their entire plan that night, but also sent the entire party into disarray. And it's been very enjoyable to watch because they have been leveraging every single tool at their disposal to imbalance this entire election. They have multiple criminal prosecutions, millions of dollars being funneled into those, plus millions of dollars into the civil lawsuits and lawfare. It has been insane. And all of that is now in motion, and their whole plan is becoming derailed because their candidate has dementia. And we've known it for years, and they lied to everybody about it, and now it's coming back to bite them in the butt. So no sympathy there from us at all.